Good morning or good afternoon to all following this webinar, and welcome to the webinar titled Streamlining Content, the Power of Multi-Channel Publishing and AI Proofing. It is a pleasure to have you all today. I am Magdalena and I'm here to moderate the webinar, as well as provide an introduction about WoodWing and the Tansa speakers. Well, I hope you'll find this webinar insightful and you'll feel free to ask questions throughout the session. Please note we have reserved a slot at the end where our speakers will gladly respond, of course, to your inquiries. First, I would like to introduce the speakers. We have our very own Dani Lehue. She's joining us from Florida. US, and she's a digital publishing veteran and a product manager at WoodWing. And her knowledge is extensive and experience, of course, in working with publishers and digital distributors around the world. Dani has helped a lot of publishers to get into iPad publishing when it was, of course, launched. And she's currently guiding publishers on how to transform their workflows and be more efficient in multi-channel publishing. And we have Chris Grimm, the managing director of Tansa. He joined the team back in 2006 to manage their direct sales efforts in North America. And now he heads up the US operations and works with English customers around the world. Chris started his career in the news industry as a journalist and graphical artist, but quickly migrated to editorial systems and eventually into software development and sales. Welcome to both. Before we start, to cover some quick general housekeeping. All attendees are currently on mute, but please feel free to use the Webinar Geek platform. You have a chat function on the right screen, and submit your questions throughout the session, throughout the presentation. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a couple of minutes at the end where our speakers can answer your inquiries. Dani, would you please start the introduction about WoodWing Studio, and welcome everybody. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks everyone for attending today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the multi-channel area. So for those of you that are already our studio users, we know that in today's thriving economy, we're trying to get to content orchestration, right? And so that's where people are working together to use tools seamlessly so that you can plan, create, manage, and distribute your content. So if I look at this big picture, what we're trying to get to is that you have your DAM, your headless CMS, commerce catalogs, traditional CMSs, contributor content, videos, and stock photos, all coming into one central multi-channel content platform. That multi-channel content platform would then be able to export your content to print, web, digital, your archive, or your social media channels, wherever you need it to go. Now, if I break this down a little bit further, we know that in today's world, there are a lot of silos between departments. So you may have a print department who they're writing, they're editing, revising content, and they do this all on their own. Meanwhile, you might have someone who is over your digital or your tablet renditions. They're creating the PDFs or sending the PDFs to be proofed and sending them out to become your digital publication. And that's entirely separate from your website designers who are working in their own silo. How are they writing? How are they editing content? All of these different departments have their own life cycle, and you can see that there are different people who are editing the content at each different stage. What we're trying to promote is the multi-channel workflow, where people are writing, editing, and revising content so that it can go to all of your different endpoints. Now, this is really interesting for the people who are more on the digital side, who are writing their content inside of tools like Studio, and they want to be able to have a seamless transition as to how am I proofing? How am I doing my grammar checks? We're going to show you some interesting tools later today as to a way that you can wonderfully multi-channel edit your content wherever you are inside of the studio environment. Now, one more look at this multi-channel workflow. For those that haven't seen it, Studio is reliant on a component structure. Inside of Studio, we are writing inside of boxes. You're writing a title, you're writing a caption, a deck, a byline. Think of these as being the different building blocks to create your article. Now, whether you're inside of a print channel or inside of a digital channel, all of this content needs to be edited, revised, fact-checked, grammar checked. And we want to make sure that you have great tools to use wherever you go inside of Studio. And with that, I am going to introduce you to Chris. Feel free to join me, Chris, as he is going to take you through Tanza, which has some beautiful tools for proofing, fact-checking, and I'll let him take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right. I just here. There we go. So we're going to be focusing today on Tanza's advanced text proofing tools and generative AI tools to help streamline the process from article creation to publication. There are many things that need to happen to an article or a document or to your InDesign document, whatever it may be, before it can actually get to public content is very important. So let me see here. I apologize. I'm new to Webinar Geek, and I don't know how to advance the. Thank you, appreciate that. So I know for many of you, Tanza, you may not be familiar with Tanza, so I just want to give you a little information on the product. First thing you should know about Tanza is that it is a centralized system. It is web-based, and what that means is that we have extensions for all the most heavily used text editing and page layout applications that folks are using today to publish their content. I'll be focusing very heavily today in a web browser. A lot of people obviously are using web-based tools as their front end for producing content, but we also have extensions for more traditional applications like Adobe InDesign and Microsoft Word. And what that means is that because it's a centralized system, and because the proofing, all of your proofing occurs on a server, you can enforce your writing and style guidelines, your style of writing across your organization, even though your staff may be using disparate applications. So while you have people who are working on the website, people who are working on the print product, people who are working in perhaps Microsoft Word, you have the ability to enforce your writing and style guidelines independent of where people are working on that content. It is a rights managed system. That's also important to keep in mind about Tanza. So only certain people in the organization can add new words, names, and phrases to your in-house guide. And that's another important thing to keep in mind about Tanza, is that it's highly customized. So you can load the dictionary full of words, names, terminology, things that are unique to your origin. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we do for many of our customers is we ask you to supply us with at least 2 years of archived content. And what we do is we data mine that archive for words, names, phrases that are used regularly. And we incorporate that into a local layer in the system. If someone can hit next for me, so someone else, so nice to do that before. Thank you. We can also incorporate published references like the Associated Press. We've been partners with the AP since 2009. And obviously a lot of our US customers in the news media and corporate publishers as well want to adhere to AP when they're doing press releases and so forth. But what really sets Tanza apart is the ability to incorporate your in-house style. So whether you already have a published style guide that we can ingest into the system, or as grow that style guide through our administrative tools. And of course, the system is a machine learning based system. So every time you run content through Tanza, it's keeping track of every error that was found, corrected, ignored, or overridden. And the software is actually learning from that. So the software gets better at proofing your content over time. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and start showing the software. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so the first thing I have to do for everyone is kind of just point out and show you how it differentiates itself from traditional spell checkers. So as you can see here, I'm in the WoodWing studio. I'm working on my document, and I've got the Chrome spell checker turned on, right? So Chrome is showing me that capable is misspelled, and credibility is misspelled, and access is misspelled, and from is misspelled. So a traditional spell checker has identified 4 errors in this document. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to proof this copy against Tanza. And so in the WoodWing environment, I can easily integrate it into the system by using this Chrome extension. And of course, we have extensions for all the most heavily used browsers, so Firefox, Edge, Safari, and so forth. But right now I'm using Chrome. So as you can see here, I have an option to proof my content, and I'm using my US English AP demo. So what's happening right now is the text is being sent to the server. The server is processing the text, and it brings back all of the potential errors at once. So it brings everything to my attention at once. So I can quickly go through this list, agree or disagree with Tanza's suggestions, and move on. Now, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes showing you these different examples of what Tanza is capable of doing, but please keep in mind, a traditional Tanza proofing session lasts seconds, not minutes, right? You run it, you go through the list, you agree or disagree with Tanza's suggestions, and you move on with your workflow. So as you can see here, just like the Chrome, Tanza identifies capable, credibility, if found from, it found access. So it takes care of all of your traditional spelling errors, but it's also identifying when I've used incorrect punctuation, right? So here I used a hyphen when I should have used an M dash. According to Webster's, and again, you can incorporate your preferred professional references. In this case, with our AP integration, we use Webster's 5th, but here in spelling checkers should actually be spell checkers. It caught the double the. According to the associates, you don't say as though, you should say as if. Now here, this is an excellent example of how Tanza differentiates itself from traditional spell checkers. Extra sensory perception. All 3 of these words are spelled correctly, right? And that's why a traditional spell checker glances right over it. But Tanza knows, and in this case, thanks to the Associated Press, that extra sensory perception is 2 words, not 3. Of course, we're not tweeting anymore because Twitter doesn't exist. We're posting. And if I look down here into my information window, I can see the reference information in-house style guide. I can also see the reference information from the Associated Press, right? So not only are we identifying the errors, we're explaining why they're errors. So the editorial staff, the journalist, whoever it may be, they can see why something's being flagged and they can make an educated decision as to whether or not they want to accept or reject that suggestion. Of course, keeping your style guide up to date, right? Twitter isn't Twitter anymore. It's now X. And I've got a little note here letting me know that it was formerly Twitter. WordPress, you want to capitalize that P. Email. Now, as you can see here, it says follow the AP rule. So this is an in-house rule. That's what this icon is identifying. And then, if it's coming from one of the more professional references, not the in-house style guide, it's got the AP logo. But this is telling me that to follow the AP rule. Now, I use this as an example because you can override the Associated Press. So, if you've decided that internet should be uppercase or you think all E words should be hyphenated, you can override those systems or those references. So the best way to imagine Tanza is kind of a dictionary layer cake where you might have your primary dictionary and then AP and then your local style or your local archive analysis. And then at the very top of this dictionary layer cake is your auxiliary dictionary, your in-house style guide. And that wins in any disagreements between the different references. Okay. Here you can see that Tanza has identified Bombay. So Bombay is spelled correctly, but because it's standing by itself, it's referring to the city in India, right? Not the in this case, you can see that Tanza is not identifying or flagging Bombay gin. So it's using words on either side of a word to better determine what you were trying to spell. Now, where Tanza really helps a newsroom, especially, is when it comes to proper names. So here you can see, John Hopkins University. It's not John Hopkins, it's Johns Hopkins University. But again, a traditional spell checker flies right over that because, each of those words independently are spelled correctly. Of course, Tanza can help with dates. I'm based in the US, so I'm using AP standards, which is the lowercase a, lowercase m with periods. But again, whether you're based in Europe, whatever, all of these things are customizable. So if you need the capital A and the capital M, that's not a problem. And now as I work my way through this list, we're getting into what are called warning words. Warning words are any word or that you want your staff to be cautious or you don't want them to use, right? In the case of leaving the L out of public, that's an awful sin in the public publishing world. It's redundant to say PM tonight. So Tanza's flagging that you don't need tonight. It's an overused language, a perfect storm, right? So whatever your editorial staff, is concerned with, what your folks want to address in terms of the content that's being created, Tanza can address all of those types of concerns. Okay, let me move on to another document. So here I have an example of some more financially driven information. Okay, so I have a financial document. Again, I can simply come up here, come to my proofing engine, and I run Tanza. And again, what it's doing is analyzing the text and generating a list and bringing me all the potential errors at once. Now, as you can see, there are no spelling errors in this document, right? So the Chrome extension or the Chrome spell checker has found no issues in this document. But again, we know Tanza's handling punctuation issues like double spaces and again, the hyphen and the em dash, US should take periods. Now, again, each organization can have their own concerns, the things that they are worried about when it comes to ensuring a unified writing style, right? So here I've got high percent. This news organization says a number should always accompany percent. Use percentage when there is no number. Right, so again, I'm getting that reference information directly in the proofing session. The Associated Press says homeowners is one word, not two. Advanced warning, that's kind of redundant. Warning by definition is advanced, so there's no reason to say that. Downside risk. This is a financial institution. They don't like to talk about downside. There's just risk. Words that should be hyphenated, like long-term debt. Words that shouldn't be capitalized, like Southern. So you get the idea, the different kinds of things that are of concern specific to the publisher, right? Let me give you another example. Okay. In publishing, especially in the news world, being clear and concise is important when getting your message out. And so at least that's what I was taught in my journalism 101 days. But as you can see here, I have just a list of phrases that some might consider wordy. All right. So again, I'm going to run Tanza against this copy. And as you see, it gives me suggestions on how I can be less wordy, right? At the present time, I can simply say now. Analysis of, simply say analyze. General public. You can just say public. In general, the public is general. In agreement with, agree, in close proximity to, near. Now, the important thing to keep in mind about Tanza is that all of these things are up to you, right? It's completely customizable to the needs of your organization. So if this type of editing is not important to your newsroom or to your editors, you don't have to employ these types of restrictions or these types of corrections. Okay. One more, I'll jump in here. Just again to show you how Tanza can check, different kinds of content for different kinds of publishers. So here I've got a used car magazine, and I'm going to go ahead and proof this content. And again, very fast. Oops, I had something sold, so that's why we did that. So let me go ahead and proof this. Again, sent to the server, processed, brought back, and I get different proofing results based on the needs of particular publishers. So knowing your staff names, right? It's John, Jon, not John. They prefer you to say buy instead of purchase. The acronym BSW when writing about blind spot warnings. All-wheel drive should be hyphenated. Backseat is 2 words, not 1. And I learned this recently, rear view camera. Apparently the industry standard is to be a backup camera. So again, based on your organization, your publication, you can load your custom dictionary with words, names, and phrases that are important to your organization. All right. So that's how Tanza, kind of stands out when it comes to a text proofing system. Of course, all of this is managed in the Tanza administrator. So we have a web-based tool where you can log in, add new words, names, phrases that are unique to your publication. And of course, it's entirely rights managed. Only certain people in your organization can do that. Now, everyone in the organization can have access to the system and can make suggestions on what should be added in terms of style rules or spellings of names or places, but only a select few can actually make those changes in the system. So it's a centralized rights managed system. So now what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about our generative AI tools. As you can see, with the text proofing, we drastically reduce the amount of time that editors have to spend editing. Or, the idea is quite, you run Tanza, it addresses all of these issues, and then you can move on and you can do other things. Well, recently, well, actually not recently, toward the end of 2022, one of our customers came to us and asked us, they said, Tanza's doing a great job when it comes to editing our content, but we have a new problem, SEO headlines. Our editors are getting a little too aggressive and creative when it came to writing SEO headlines. And what was happening was that those headlines were not accurate with the article. So it was hurting their search results. And so they asked us if there's anything we could do in terms of checking for the accuracy of a headline. And so the first tool we built around generative AI was an accuracy checker. And of course, what's nice about this is that all of these tools are available from the same extension. So whether I'm working in Chrome, InDesign, wherever it may be, I have access to all these tools. So as you can see, not only do I have proofing, but I have what we call our create services. And one of them in here is our accuracy checker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this headline. I'm going to come to the Tanza drop-down menu, and I'm going to run accuracy check. And what it's going to do, it's going to analyze that headline against my article. Usually just takes a couple seconds. And as you can see here, it immediately identifies that there was an inaccuracy detected. Now, what's truly amazing, what we can do with generative AI today is that not only can it detect the error, but it can explain to me the error. So if I look down here into my findings, and I don't know if my screen resolution is enough for everyone to be able to read this, but it says the article specifies the best used cars are within the $15,000 to $20,000 range, not $15,000 to $30,000 range as stated in the headline. And if I look down here, I can see the article does say 15 to 20,000. So it's actually, analyzing that article and looking for these types of, hard and fast rules, or in this case, these hard and fast numbers that don't match up. Now, I want to make sure everyone understands what I just showed them. This is an accuracy checker. It is not a fact checker. Now, we are working on a more advanced fact checker, and we can talk about that during the Q&A. But this is an accuracy checker. So it's just analyzing the headline against the copy of the article. And that's how we're addressing, for those of you who are following the AI movement and know a lot about it and are reading things about, how the AI can be, can get confused and create incorrect information, because we're working only within the content of the article that was created by the writer or the journalist. We don't get into those types of issues. So again, this is very specific to the headline and this article. All right. All right, so that's the accuracy checker. Now let me go over to another article here. All right, so I have an article here, and I'm going to put in a headline just so you can see this. Not only will it find inaccuracies, but in here I'm going to put an exclamation point on that. There we go. So now I'm going to check the accuracy of this headline just to better illustrate what the system abilities are. So again, it's checking it's analyzing the article, putting it against the headline, and in this case, it tells me success, no inaccuracies detected. But this is where I get really excited about what we're able to do with large language models. As you can see, it tells me that the headline, "Don't panic," is a phrase from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is referenced in the article. So this new AI built by Musk's team called Grok is supposed to be, kind of a play on The Hitchhiker's Guide in the Galaxy supercomputer. And so it's able to know that little headline, "Don't panic," is accurate because it understands, well, it doesn't really understand, but it has that information. It knows what Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is. So that's very exciting. So not only will it identify, like I said, like when the numbers don't match up, but it'll also address these other types of things. It's looking at so much more. So that's the accuracy checker. Now, once we built the accuracy checker, we realized that were so many things, so many tasks that fell on editors that we could help them with. If they were struggling with SEO headlines, rather than just check the accuracy of those SEO headlines, what if we could write those lines for them? So the next tool we developed was a headline writer. So I can simply click on my headline tab here, 3 headlines. So Musk reveals Grok's playful side. Grok AI chatbot accesses users' posts. Elon Musk introduces rebellious Grok chatbot. I can't say Grok, apologies. Now, the reason we give you 3 is because we want to give you some choices, but also many of our customers, especially in the news media, they're running A/B headlines, right? They want to run one headline in one market, another headline in another market, and they can see which actually generates the most traction, right? Talking about SEO headlines. So now I want to go ahead and create an SEO headline. So let's make it longer. I'm going to turn on search engine optimization. All I have to do is click create again. It'll generate 3 new headlines for me. And this time it's pulling keywords out of the article so that I get a good SEO headline. And then if I like it, all I need to do is copy it to my clipboard, and I can paste it into the appropriate place in my CMS. Now, I realize there are some publishers that use the SEO headline in their form, in their published headline, but there are other publishers who bury that SEO headline in the CMS so that only really Google and other search engines can see that. Now, what's nice about our headline creation tool is that not only can it generate SEO headlines, it can also I can also use it to come up with interesting and entertaining headlines or engaging headlines. Let's go with engaging over entertaining. So what I can do here is I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm going to come and say, let's do something short and sweet. I'm going to try and limit it to 3 words. I'm not interested in search engine optimization anymore. But you notice I can manipulate the tone and style of the headline. So here I'm going to say, and this is just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say, let's make it humorous. Okay. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, let's use alliteration. All right. And then all I need to do is click create. Again, it's going to regenerate those headlines for me, this time tone and style that I selected. So I get Musk's mischievous, masterful grok, sarcastic grok shines, Elon's epic grok. So not perfect alliteration, but it's not bad. And the idea here is that, even if it doesn't produce the best headline, and although I have seen it produce some rather stellar headlines, it gets me closer to where I need to be. So, in a process that can often take an editor, 5 seconds, if they're a tremendous headline writer, to 5 minutes to 50 minutes, right? This can help reduce the amount of time that an editor might struggle with writing those headlines, especially the SEO headlines. So that's our headline creation tool. So we've talked about the accuracy checking, and then of course, Tanza can also generate headlines for you quickly and easily. Now, what's nice about the create services is that once I'm in this dialog, I don't have to close it and rerun it from the Tanza drop-down menu. All of the tools are available to me right here as tabs. Of organizations, there's been some studies that show that if you present a summary of your article before you present the full article, you're more likely to get that reader to engage in that piece. So I can simply click on summary, and it's going to take my 500-word article and knock it down to 75 words. Right? So very quickly and easily. And if I want it longer, I can say make it longer. If I want it shorter, I can say make it shorter. So that's the summary tool. Oh, and of course, we have different styles. So if your organization prefers bulleted summaries, you can have a bulleted summary. Okay, so a number of different things you can do here in our summary tool. We've also incorporated a social media component because we realize that when you're promoting your content online, while search engine optimization is important with your, with SEO headlines and such, also being able to promote your article online on Facebook or Threads or X or whatever your social media platform of choice may be, it's important to be able to get a post out. So all I have to do here is click on my social media post. I click create again, and it reworks that content for social media and even provides me with the hashtags. Right. So now in just a few moments, we've been able to proof our copy, check the accuracy of our headlines, write an SEO headline, and produce a summary and a social media post in just seconds. Now, again, especially for those of you who may be in the news media space, in the new world, search engine optimization, making it so that people can find your article is very, and so we've also incorporated keywords. So again, all I have to do is click on that tab. It'll immediately give me my 5 keywords in this case. If I want more keywords, I can say, find me more keywords. I simply click create again, and it pulls out more keywords from the document. Again, all I need to do is then copy and paste that directly into the appropriate place in my web CMS. Okay. So that's keyword identification. So a lot of our customers are multilingual publications. They're producing their content in multiple languages. And so another feature that we incorporated into the system using generative AI is a translation service. So as you can see here, I can just work my way through my tabs and I can click on translate. And in this case, and I'm based in the US, so many publishers here are reproducing their content in Spanish because we have a very large Spanish population. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Spanish. All I have to do is click translate, and it's going to rework or reproduce that content in the appropriate language. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that this is not a simple word-for-word translation that you're probably used to seeing from things like Google Translate. Now, I do expect that Google will get better or provide better and better translation tools as they improve things like Gemini and Bard. But what we have seen is that, with the large language models that we're using, it produces much better translation results. And of course, all the languages that we offer here, about a dozen of them, many Scandinavian, Tanza has Scandinavian roots. All of these languages have been vetted by our language department to verify that we are in fact producing good translations. Okay, so that's the translation service. Okay, so just to make sure everyone sees this, as I mentioned before, we have extensions for just about anywhere you may be creating content. So I'm just going to jump over to InDesign for a second, and I've got it right here. And so as you can see here, I have the print version of that article I was just working on in Studio. I can simply select this text. I can come to my Tanza drop-down menu in InDesign. As you can see, I have access to the same tools, whether I'm working in my web browser or InDesign, and I'm going to proof this copy against the same dictionary. So I have a centralized dictionary, right? So I can enforce my writing and style guidelines, whether people are working in the web browser or in InDesign, right? There's backseat, there's that rear view camera. So again, and I get that reference directly here. And as I click on the different errors, you can see that it's highlighting them in the InDesign document. Now, what's really important to keep in mind here is that, if I select a particular text element, Tanza will just check that text element. If I click on the paste board, Tanza will check every single text element in my document. So every line, caption, pulled quote, whatever it may be. If you have edit rights to it in the document, Tanza will review it and identify any particular. Now, of course, the create service is still available in InDesign as well. So here I can select my headline, I can come to my Tanza drop-down menu, and I can run the accuracy check here as well. All right, so I'm running my accuracy checker, direct design. And just like when in the web browser, it's going to know that inaccuracies were detected. This article specifies the best used cars under 20,000, not up to 30,000. Okay. All right. Now, all of this, and I don't know how I'm doing on time, but all of these things are managed in the Tanza Administrator. And the Tanza Administrator is the tool that we make available to your organization so that you continue to add new words, names, and phrases and grow your dictionary over time. Put in those unique things about, that are concerns to your editorial staff. Now, we also provide very critical information to give you an idea of what Tanza is doing for you on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So, how many documents per week are you processing? Compare months, your use per day. So you can actually see when your busiest times of day are when it comes to editing. You can see what were the most common suggestions, the most common unknown. A use log where you can tunnel in and see what happened during different proofing sessions. So there's a lot of information available to you there. With that, I think I'm probably at the end of my time, and we can open Q&A.
All right, Chris, I'm going to jump in because I've already seen a couple of questions come in. I'll also let Magdalena jump in too, because I'm sure she's got some questions too.
Yes.
I'm going to, Chris, toss you your first question. There was questions about what languages Tanza is available to process and what regions. Specifically, they were looking for Spanish, but can you talk about the other languages that Tanza can work with?
Yeah, so we currently support more than a dozen languages, 4 varieties of English. We have US, UK, Canadian, Australian, and we've incorporated, different style guides from those different regions. So like here in the US, we have AP. In Canada, we have Canadian Press. In the UK market, we've had a partnership with the Financial Times in the use of their style guide. But we also support multiple variations of Spanish. So we have European Spanish, we have Argentinian Spanish, we have a lot of different Spanishes, and now actually the Spanishes that are spoken here in the United States, German, French, There's many. We're slowly also bringing in double bit languages. So we will also be offering things like Arabic, Japanese, and Chinese. So we already offer those for the translation service, but we'll also be having those for proofing as well. But lots of languages, and we could probably more.
There is a on the spot question. Do you have Italian?
Say that again.
Sorry. Do you support Italian Italian language?
That is coming soon, actually. That is going to be the next language that we offer. It's currently in development.
Okay, great.
All right, I see another question.
Yeah,
I'm going to jump in. Chris, for the Adobe suite, we saw InDesign, but do you also have a plugin for InCopy?
We do. Yes, we also do InCopy, and in terms of the Office suite of tools, we have extensions for Word, and also about to release a PowerPoint extension as well. And we also still support Quark Express. Maybe I should. I don't know.
There is an interesting question from Stephen Rogers. Can you have multiple style guides operating at the same time? We have multiple brands, some of which have slightly different requirements.
That's a fantastic question for asking it. And yes, and so we have many customers around our parent company that have lots of publications under them. And of course, you can have style guides. And we understand that, often types of organizations, you may have a centralized copy. Even though someone may be based in one region, they may be editing for another organization that's several cities. But yes, you can have multiple styles. And what's nice about this, and I can show this very quickly. So here you can see, if I just create a new entry very quickly, it's actually set up for this. You can see that I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dictionaries. So as an administrator, I can add a new word, name, and phrase. And if again, based on my rights, I can say, you know what, this would benefit everyone in the organization. So I can add it to all the style guides, or I can say, this is really unique to this particular publication, so I'm only going to add it to their style guide. But yes, the system is designed to handle multiple publications and multiple style guides.
Thank you. There is another question.
Am I still sharing my screen? Was everyone able to see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great,
another question to you, Chris. Can Tanza also be used on PDFs, such as through Adobe Acrobat?
Not currently. We are working on a PDF extension. We do work. There are some third-party tools like PDF editors. I forget the name of some of the systems. Sean, do you remember? Oh, Sean's not part of the presenter. Sorry. But we are working on one. We do realize that there are a lot of organizations, the final edits are occurring at PDF, but rather than inside InDesign or InCopy or the browser.
And another question is, if the PDF is open in a browser, will it work?
If the text is not editable, then no. If it's just an image, then currently it will not. In all browser environments, so like what I was showing you today in Studio, I had edit rights to that document. So Tanza is not meant to be run on published web pages. It's the idea is that you're working in your web browser, you're creating or editing that content, and you run Tanza there. So you're not actually running Tanza on anything that you don't have edit rights to.
Okay. We have several other questions. Another one would be, what large language models are driving these AI tools you presented?
That's a great question. So we're actually using a number of different large language models. Right now, for most of the stuff that you saw here today, in terms of the headline creation and the the accuracy checker and the translation services, we're currently using the same LLM as ChatGPT. So it's GPT, and for some services it may be 3.5, it may be 4.0. For those of you who are very familiar again with what's happening in the AI world, but they're all trained or additionally trained based on the needs of our customers. So a lot of our customers are in the news media. And so, we're making sure, that our system is generating, good headlines that are based on AP style and things like that, are formatted properly, and so forth. So, and in some cases, we are training the model specifically to the customer's needs. So we have separate instances of that model per customer, not just for all our customers. Now, that being said, we for our grammar checking, we're actually using Google T5 a transformer. That's something that we trained ourselves based on years and years of editing news content from customers. So that's for the grammar. And one of the nice things about our system is that it's entirely open on the back end. What that means is that, we're constantly checking to see, and because there's so many things are happening in the world of AI. Like right now, OpenAI does have a fantastic system, does some tremendous things, but things like Grok and Claude and Bard and Gemini, all of these other offerings that are coming from places like Facebook and Google and Amazon, it's just a matter of time that one of them outshines the other. And so our system is developed in such a way so that, if we find that suddenly that Claude is a way better translation service, we can point to that large language model and further train that LLM rather than be locked into any one large language model. So we've left the system open for just that reason.
That's great. Thank you for the elaborate explanation. We have lots of questions indeed. Can you ingest files into Tansa so it creates a dictionary from them?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Can you ingest files into Tansa so it creates a dictionary from those?
Yes. So one of the first things, or what I talked about early on, was that, what we do for a number of our customers is we'll ask you to supply us with access to your archive, preferably the last 2 years. And then what we do is we data mine that archive for words, names, phrases that you write about on a regular basis. So the system basically goes through and literally goes through the archive 10 times, single words, double words, triple words, out to 10-word phrases that occur regularly in your documents. And we incorporate that as what we call the local layer in the system. Now, that being said, of course, as you can see here, you can add entries to your style guide one at a time, but there is also, let me see here, come back to entries. There's also an import feature so that, if you have a list of words, names, phrases that you want to get into the system quickly and easily, you can import them all at once into the system rather than have to type them in manually one at a time.
Great. And can Tansa be used in the WoodWing print editor window?
That is a great question for someone at WoodWing.
I can answer that one. The answer is yes. So I played with the Tansa tools, and because it sits on a browser, anywhere that you are inside of that browser window, it will work. It can search. It can help you spell check. So yes.
Great. Thank you. We create children content and media. Let's talk further on Tansa. We have an inquiry, so maybe you can follow up after the webinar. We have another question. What is the cost?
So the cost of the system is based on the amount of content that you run through it. So, if you're a small organization, only, producing a few, 100 documents a month, let's say, the cost would be, X. But if you're a larger organization processing 5,000 to 6,000 documents or 30,000 to 40,000 documents a month, obviously your cost will be higher. But obviously the cost per processing is reduced based on on the larger volume. So you get cost reductions based on volume, but the pricing is based on the amount of content that you're processing through the system. So it's not now if you wanted to, let's say, subscribe to the Associated Press or any of the other published style guides that we have formal relationships with. We might need a seat count to address any licensing fees for having access to those references. But in terms of, the proofing and the generative AI services, the cost is based on the amount of content that you put through the system.
Can one incorporate subject matter terms like legal dictionaries, etc.? I believe you already elaborated on that, but
you can put anything you want, whatever your concerns are, things that that you need to address in your content. You can load into the dictionary. And just to give you an idea, like, my little demo dictionary right here only has 640 entries in it. We have customers who have 300 entries in their style guide. We have customers that have 30,000 entries in their style guide. So there's really no limit in terms of what you can put in there and how much information you can put in there. And of course, your entries can be as advanced or as simple as you need them to be. Just I'll just give you a very quick example. I'm going to go ahead and create a new entry here just so you can see this. I'm going to just create an entry here, and I'm going to use Danny. Danny, I don't remember how to spell your last name. How do you spell your last name?
Leyhue.
Ley. Say it again.
Hue.
All right. So I've got Danny. This is how Danny spells her name. Now let's just say, because I'm silly, I might accidentally spell it Danny like that. All right. So I'm teaching the system that if anyone does this, it should actually be Danny with an I. And it's just the one N, right, Danny?
That's correct.
All right. So I'm going to so I don't have to do this twice, I'm going to say use the I. So like so. I'm going to add that to my dictionary, and I'm just going to add it to this dictionary. And I can just quickly add that to my style guide. All right, so that's been added. Now, one thing we didn't talk about, but I think is great for folks to know, is that I'm going to jump back to this article that's been open this whole time. And I spoke to here. Okay, so I've added that to this article, and now I'm just going to run Tanza. Right. Anytime you make a change in the dictionary, it's immediate. Right. So let's see here. There's Danny. Right. So it's not Danny, DNNY. It's Danny, DNI. So I don't have to, log out and log back in. I don't have to download a dictionary update. Just the next time anyone uses Tanza, it's going to know how to spell that name. So, that's really great, especially for newsrooms. Where, it might be a busy news night and a new name pops into the news. And, you may be, updating articles throughout the night. That everyone's going to spell that name properly because you just have to add it to Tanza.
Perfect. There are two other questions. What are the generative AI data sources? Public domain content only? ? I believe you already answered this question.
But if I'm reading into it, I'll just because I know that there are concerns.
Yes.
Our agreement, especially for our agreement with OpenAI, is that we have a formal relationship with OpenAI. We're using an API to communicate with the large language model. Again, that large language model is being finely tuned based on our customers' needs, and OpenAI does not have access to or cannot use any of our customers' data to train their large language model. So while we can use that data to fine tune the model for our customers, the parent company, like in the case of OpenAI, they can't have access to this. So like, if you were to, use something like ChatGPT and run your content through it, ChatGPT has rights to your content. You've just given them your article, right? But by using Tanza, you are protected. There are privacy rights associated with your content that you would not have if you were just using something like ChatGPT.
Okay.
So I think that might have been what they were getting at in terms of privacy.
Yes, and also, how does Tanza deal with hallucinations in the generative AI space?
So we're working very, obviously that's a concern, but from organizations. And as I was kind of touching on earlier with the accuracy checker, to make sure that, Tanza isn't doing anything like hallucinating, which is a fantastic term from AI, is that we're limiting the AI to the content that we provide to it. So in terms of the accuracy checker, it's looking at that article. It's not looking at other articles. It's looking at that article. When it comes to our headline writer, right? The reason we know it can write accurate SEO headlines is because we're telling the AI to only use the data in the article that you've written, right? So it's not looking for ideas out on the general internet. So that's one of the main ways that we're addressing hallucinations. Now, I alluded to that we are all also working on a fact checker. And what we're doing is we're working with a couple key customers right now where, we won't give the AI access to the general internet. The last thing we want is the AI to be deciding that, this is incorrect because it read something on Wikipedia, right? So what we've done is we're working with some key customers right now so that the first place the AI will look will be your own archive to validate, and fact check, and then be able to select some key acceptable resources that the AI can use to analyze and address fact checking issues. So that's how we're handling hallucinations, because it is obviously a known issue and it does happen.
Yes, it is a major concern for all publishers and, of course, corporate brands. One last questions before we wrap up the session, because there were quite a few questions and I believe we handled most of them. Is the Adobe plugin of Tansa an additional cost?
So you can download we make the plugin available in the Adobe Store, so you can find it in Adobe Exchange. Obviously, to use it though, you have to have an account with us. So to actually access a dictionary and use it, you would have to have a Tansa account. So the plugin itself is freely available to download, but you have to have a Tansa account to use it.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chris and Danny, for today's extensive presentation. Also, an in-depth diving into the capabilities and functionalities of Tansa and how it pairs well with, of course, the multi-channel workflow of WoodWing Studio. Thank you, everybody that participated and joined into this session. In case you missed parts of this webinar in the beginning or in the very end, we will send you the recording in a couple of hours or within 24 hours, of course. Any follow-ups, any questions, in case somebody has any questions, they can freely reach out to sales@woodwing.com or to Chris. Can you give us a...
They can send inquiries to sales@tansa.com, or they're more than welcome to reach out to me directly. I'm just Chris@tansa.com, CHRIS.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again. And yes, it was a pleasure having you today as speakers. And hopefully we'll have a lot of interest for the, of course, for the Tansa proofing tool in combination with Studio. And I want to wish everybody a very good day or evening. And until next time.